The Russians fundamentally look down on Chinese-made products. Even though the quality of Chinese products far exceeds that of Russian ones, they still remove the logos from the Chinese-made Li Auto cars. It's not just this car. I've seen them do the same with Sykes Skoda models. If you truly understand the local car environment, you know that some Russians still have high expectations for cars made in European countries, especially Germany. Even for trucks, they feel the same way. Do you think Russians genuinely respect and like Chinese-made cars? Actually, even if they remove the logo, it's easy to differentiate between Chinese cars and other cars. In 2023, Chinese cars accounted for nearly 76% of the 1.06 million new cars sold in China. Who doesn't recognize a Chinese car? What Russians are trying to say by removing the logos is that they only buy Chinese cars because they have no other choice. If they had options, they wouldn't buy them. According to a survey by Russia's renowned automotive media, Autostat, the frequency of repairs for Chinese cars increased by 35% this year compared to last year. This includes all Chinese car brands sold in Russia. What does this mean? After just a year of driving, problems start to show up. A survey by Optiker Auto revealed that 60% of respondents complained about Chinese cars. Issues include thin metal, poor sound insulation, and fragile suspensions, causing headaches for Russians. Haval and Great Wall Motor are often criticized for high fuel consumption and poor body corrosion resistance. Exceed has problems with its braking system. FAW's plastic parts are of low quality and lack adequate corrosion protection. Omoda and Chery are noted for the lack of ergonomic driver seats. Brands like Geely, Tank, and Dongfeng are criticized for high fuel consumption, while JAC's design and comfort are unappealing. Li Fan cars commonly rust and have poor controllability, deterring potential buyers. Moreover, the auto agency boldly states that if you find a Li Fan in a showroom, it might have been there for 3 to 4 years and could already be rusting. Russian experts bluntly state that Chinese cars are unsuitable for Russia's climate and roads. Even the leading Chinese brands, Chery, Geely, Haval, Chang'an, JAC, and GAC, face issues like heating systems not working, multimedia malfunctions, faulty batteries, and pedal detachment, giving Russian consumers headaches. The most common problem is that in cold environments, collisions cause the plastic parts of Chinese cars to shatter. Chinese cars are unlike Volkswagens, which have plastic reinforced with fiberglass, making them much stronger and more durable. When it comes to manufacturing techniques, BYD tries to save money by using closed mold cast foam parts, which can result in uneven surfaces and bubbles. In contrast, Volkswagen uses open mold casting, which although more expensive, results in much denser foam. For critical components, such as airbags, BYD falls short too. In cold temperatures, they contain foreign substances, and in hot temperatures, they deploy slowly, increasing the risk of injury to passengers. In comparison, Volkswagen's airbag system is much more reliable, having invested significantly in both materials and craftsmanship. Regarding quality control, Russian industry experts who toured Chinese factories were not impressed. From electronics to material components, Chinese products have yet to demonstrate consistent quality and craftsmanship. While they can ship products quickly, their quality is a hit or miss, with only a few manufacturers capable of consistently producing high-quality items. For heat-resistant, cold-resistant, and precision products, even Chinese factories with military backgrounds struggle to maintain consistent product quality. This is no small issue. What frustrates car owners even more is the after-sales service of Chinese car companies. If you need repairs, you might be ignored or face poor service. Sometimes automobile sales service shops lack parts, meaning months-long waits for repairs. Going to an external repair shop is not an option either, as they don't even have parts catalogs, let alone repair manuals. Some cars come off the production line already having issues, and even the automobile sales service stores are helpless. Yet these brands boast about ample spare parts and experienced technicians, but the reality is far from satisfactory. Take, for example, a cracked crankcase in an engine. Chinese cars might have Russian mechanics struggling for days to fix something as simple as replacing a drain plug. Parts need to be shipped from China, which takes a month, while fixing a Honda or Volkswagen might only take 2 hours, with experienced mechanics finishing the job in time it takes to smoke 3 cigarettes. Why is this? Chinese car designs are too complex, with lots of small parts, making repairs a nightmare. The cost of repairs is high too. Welding a crankcase can cost at least 5,000 rubles, whereas similar repairs on a Honda or Volkswagen might only cost 1,500 rubles. So, maintaining and repairing Chinese cars definitely exceeds the normal budget. Regarding car prices, nearly 800,000 new Chinese cars were added to the Russian market last year, with prices increasing by 11% year-on-year, far outpacing the income growth of Russian residents. Some used car prices even doubled to 1.8 million rubles, which is equivalent to $20,500. Based on a report from a Russian car website, Russian consumers are unhappy with these high prices, as even Western cars of the same quality didn't have such outrageous prices before the sanctions. Importing a new car from China, priced at 200,000 yuan, to Russia involves transportation, tariffs, scrapping taxes, and profits, ultimately costing consumers over 500,000 yuan, which is equivalent to $69,000. Even locally produced Russian brands like Mosvik, using Chinese GAC parts, are shockingly expensive. A Model 3 costs over $26,000, while the most popular Lada Granta is only 680,000 rubles, equivalent to $7,700. Chinese cars are already pricey, and manufacturers plan to introduce more models. The more models there are, the greater the after-sales pressure. It's unclear how Chinese car companies plan to cope, but it is known that they have a short-term profit mindset. Currently, only Havel, which has a factory in Tula, Russia, has seen its average prices drop by 2%, leading people to hope for more Chinese factories in Russia. However, Chinese car companies are not very interested in building factories in Russia. Even if they do, they will mainly focus on assembly, with core components still shipped from China. This means Chinese car prices in Russia are unlikely to drop significantly. Some say China is unwilling to share technology, but the reality is they don't have any secret tricks to reduce car costs. They just exploit workers and lower wages. They can't do that in Russia. Therefore, investing in production lines in Russia might end up costing more than in China, which nobody wants. China does have cars that claim to meet European quality, but they are not cheap. Only by producing cars more luxurious than the Mercedes S-Class and selling them at outrageous prices can Chinese car companies make money. Trying to achieve European quality in mid-range cars is impossible. Look at BYD, now focusing on luxury electric cars over $150,000 to compete with Tesla. Doesn't that tell you something? In June of last year, the highest monthly salary for workers in the Russian automotive industry was only 2,900 yuan, with the lowest being 2,100 yuan, equivalent to $290. This shows that the average income of the Russian populace is generally low, and their purchasing power is limited. If Western countries were to lift sanctions on Russia one day, the competitive advantage of Chinese cars in Russia might be lost. Even with the current sanctions, many Russians with better economic conditions have already started purchasing expensive German and Japanese cars. The Russian government has also stated that it will continue to allow parallel imports in 2024. Last year, Western cars held a 10% market share in Russia, and this year, they are expected to reach 20%. In the future, the target customer for Chinese car companies in Russia might only be low-income groups with even weaker purchasing power. Therefore, the market capacity in Russia may not be as large as Chinese manufacturers imagine. In recent years, Russia's attitude towards China has been extremely complex. Due to Western sanctions, Russia faces significant import challenges and has had to turn to China to fill the void. However, Russians are filled with distrust and disdain for Chinese products, avoiding them whenever possible. In the automotive market, Chinese cars can only occupy a small niche in the low-end segment with no competitiveness against high-end Western cars imported through parallel channels. Similarly, for consumer goods like tea, Russians prefer to produce from Sri Lanka and India rather than buying from China. In the field of military equipment, Sino-Russia cooperation has been burdened with difficulties. Russia would rather abandon projects than use Chinese-made components. In 2018, a scandal erupted when the Chinese Navy's deputy commander ordered a ban on Chinese diesel engines in shipyards. Originally, their 21531 class missile boats used engines from Germany's MCU company. However, after the EU imposed sanctions over the Crimea issue in 2014, they had to switch to imports from a Chinese company in Henan. The Chinese engines failed soon after being installed on the ships, causing significant issues for the Russian Navy and leading to the aforementioned ban. The aversion to Chinese products extends beyond goods to Chinese prospectors flocking to Siberia, not for gold, but for mammoth ivory and Bitcoin. Mammoth ivory is even more valuable than modern ivory due to its extinction 10,000 years ago and its higher density and hardness, allowing for more intricate carvings. So once it hit the market, it became highly sought after in the antique trade. Thus, while the ivory trade is banned globally, ivory traders still make a profit. As a result, Chinese ivory traders have flocked to Siberia, digging for mammoth remains during the thawing season. It is estimated that hundreds of tons of mammoth ivory flow into China annually. Although Russia has policies to limit this, the vast 4 million square kilometer Yakutia region has only 1 million inhabitants, making it difficult for the government to manage. This effectively turns it into a paradise for Chinese ivory traders. Another activity of Chinese in Siberia is stealing electricity to mine Bitcoin. After China cracked down on domestic mining in 2021, many Chinese mining companies moved to Russia. The most popular location is Irkutsk near Lake Baikal, where absurdly low electricity prices and freezing winter temperatures provide free cooling for mining machines. These mining operations often steal electricity and refuse to pay industrial electricity rates, causing frequent power outages for local residents and angering the local government. From cars to tea to military equipment, and from mammoth ivory to electricity theft for mining, the actions of Chinese people in Russia have been disgraceful. They disregard laws and morals and lack any sense of being visitors. Their opportunistic behavior and resource plundering have damaged the image of Made in China labels. It's no wonder Russians avoid Chinese people and products. These examples only scratch the surface of how the CCP has harmed its ally, Russia. Since Western sanctions were imposed on Russia, Russia has hoped for China to provide critical support. However, the CCP has not only failed to help, but has taken advantage of the situation, intensifying the difficulties for Russia. Take natural gas trade as an example. When Europe stopped importing Russian natural gas, Gazprom lost $7 billion in 2023, the largest loss in 25 years. Seeing the dire situation, Russia proposed building a second Siberian pipeline to China, aiming to supply 50 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually. This would have been a win-win proposition, providing China with substantial economic benefits and helping Gazprom out of its difficulties. However, the CCP did not agree to the pipeline. When Putin visited China in May, Gazprom's CEO, Alexei Miller, did not accompany him, indicating that negotiations over the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline had already stalled. China had initially promised to purchase 50 billion cubic meters annually, but the current capacity of the Power of Siberia 1 pipeline only allows for 2.2 billion cubic meters a year. Without building the second pipeline, how can they fulfill this promise? Yet the negotiations remain deadlocked, showing the CCP's unwillingness to keep commitments. What's more, the CCP is extremely demanding on natural gas prices. Russia has already heavily subsidized the prices, but the CCP insists on even lower prices before agreeing to buy more. As a result, the price is only 44% of what Russia used to sell to Europe. Russia agreed to numerous conditions from the CCP, only to end up with no real benefits. This clearly shows that the CCP is not sincerely helping Russia, but is trying to take advantage at every turn. They talk about strategic partnership and mutual benefits, but in reality, they set traps and play tricks. At the NATO summit, the CCP's true colors were revealed again, showing it as a behind-the-scenes instigator of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, encouraging Russia to confront the West before the war. But when Russia faced sanctions, the CCP pretended to help while actually seeking to profit from the situation. This self-serving behavior is eroding the foundation of the two countries' relationship, and mutual trust between China and Russia is deteriorating, as already evidenced. Encouraged by Russia, North Korea is also becoming more assertive towards China. On May 27, the China-Japan-South Korea summit released a joint statement supporting the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. North Korea vehemently criticized this as political provocation and interference in internal affairs. This is the first time North Korea has directly opposed the CCP, reflecting how badly China's image has deteriorated among its allies. To disrupt this significant political and diplomatic event, North Korea even launched a military spy satellite during Chinese Premier Li Chang's visit to South Korea. Shortly after the China-Japan-South Korea leaders' meeting ended, the satellite exploded near the China-North Korea border, clearly a deliberate provocation by North Korea. In connection with the Russia-Ukraine war, Putin has been using North Korean weapons and has promised to help North Korea develop its nuclear program. If Russia allows North Korea to deploy nuclear weapons near China's border, it would be a significant military threat to the CCP. This shows that the CCP's self-serving and opportunistic behavior is likely to provoke resentment and dissatisfaction among its allies. Over time, no amount of profit can bridge the trust gap. This should serve as a significant warning to the CCP. In fact, the CCP's actions on the international stage have already raised alarms and dissatisfaction worldwide. It's not just Russia and North Korea. Even Pakistan, which has traditionally had close ties with China, has recently voiced differing opinions. Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif publicly stated in an interview that the Belt and Road Initiative has issues with transparency and fairness, burdening Pakistan with heavy debt. This statement hit a sore spot for the CCP. Adding to the CCP's embarrassment, at this year's Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, the leaders of Iran and India, two major countries, were absent and only sent lower-ranking officials. This would have been unthinkable in the past. Analysts suggest this reflects members' countries' dissatisfaction with the CCP's dominance and their concerns about its hegemonic behavior in regional affairs. The CCP's behavior in foreign relations exposes its narrow, selfish, and opportunistic nature. It not only harms its allies' interests, but also severely damages its international image. Countries around the world are re-evaluating their relationships with China. Developed economies like the United States, the EU, and Japan are coordinating to form a united front against China. Some developing countries are also distancing themselves from China, turning to the US, India, and other major powers for cooperation. In this context, if the CCP does not recognize the situation and adjust its strategy, it will likely find itself increasingly isolated.